Kym, tell me a little bit about yourself and also about your daughter in sports.
Wow. A little bit about myself. Okay. Um, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and I didn't start participating in organized sports until my freshman year of high school. Fast forward to my senior year of high school, I was the top female basketball player in the state of Kentucky and the top shot putter. And so I had the opportunity to choose where I wanted to go to college in track or basketball, but I liked basketball a lot more. And I chose to go to Arizona State. At the time, my college coach, her name was Julene Brzezinski Simpson, and she was co-captain with Pat Head Summit on the 76 Olympic team, which was the first Olympics that showed women's basketball. She was tough, really, really tough. I stuck it out. It was a couple times I wanted to transfer. Because, she had that whole Olympic mentality and I had just started playing and I'm like, oh my God. And it was really, really tough, but I stuck it out and I was really glad that I did because, some of the lessons that she taught us, like when you think you're giving your best, there's always more. And, we self-impose glass ceilings, and sometimes when you push through, you surprise yourself because it's kind of like, oh, wow. Okay. I did that. Or wow. So, I was really grateful for the lessons that I learned. And then when I graduated from college, I had a great college career. I'm still, after all of these years, the all-time leading scorer and rebounder, male or female, in the history of the school. And I set over 40 records at the time I was there. I was the Sun Angel Athlete of the Year, which is really, really huge. And but when I graduated from college, there was no professional basketball in America for women. So I had to go abroad to play. And I did. I played 6 years in Spain. Y si yo hablo español también. And anche giocato pallacanestro in Italia per 4 anni e mezzo. I played 1 year in Japan. So konnichiwa, ohayou gozaimasu. And I played a year in France. So bonjour, comment allez-vous? And then during my 12th season, they started the WNBA, and I found out I was going to be drafted in the elite draft with all the 96 Olympic team, the Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobos, and those guys. And so I got drafted to the New York Liberty. And, it was just amazing to be a part of that league that is going into its 27th season this year. And just to know that I was a pioneer and could be a role model for girls like my daughter and all girls that aspire to grow up and to be a professional athlete or just a collegiate athlete or whatever, just to push themselves. So it's been a really, really great ride. Me and Lisa Leslie doing the first ever jump ball of the WNBA and me scoring the first 2 points in New York Liberty history. It's just been a real, real joy. And then after that, I worked in community relations with the team. So I would do appearances and go out and do speaking engagements and things like that. So it was really fun doing basketball clinics. I would be a part of the Women's Sports Foundation and doing a lot of their community relations work, the league office. And so it's been great. And, last year, my daughter, she graduated from high school and I got a job with Nike and I relocated across the country to Portland, Oregon at the world headquarters. So it's been quite a ride. And as for my daughter, she grew up around the game, of course, because I had retired from playing. But again, with me working in community relations, she was at every Liberty game. She was at a lot of the Knicks games, a lot of the Knicks events, community relations events that I worked at and participated in. And so she grew up around all of the players. And she told me one day she wanted to play basketball. And I had promised myself I wouldn't force her to do it. But I guess she was just around it a lot. And she decided she wanted to play. Now, me, with my hindsight and everything, I'm kind of like, okay, I know what it takes to get you to be your best. So come on, if you're going to play, let's do this and let's take it serious. Well, I learned early on, she was still a kid. She was probably 6, 7, something like that. All of this energy. And I'm telling her, trying to show her how to go in and maybe do a layup or something. And, she's jumping around and doing all of this. I'm like, look, stop all the moving around. Be focused, and everything. And so I learned very early in her career that, yeah, I was not going to be able to coach her because we just completely clashed. But thank God I found some people, we built some friends, lifelong friends that our daughters are now in college and playing, and, that were able to do that. And I now step in from a mental perspective. So she's currently at the University of Cincinnati playing there, and this is her freshman year. And she's enjoyed this. It is definitely a learning curve. She's playing a completely new position, and but she's a quick learner, and she's very, very athletic, and she's really smart on the court. Her basketball IQ is really great, and she's a very coachable kid. So the coaches say that was one of the main things. She's incredibly coachable. And so, for me, again, my approach is more mental. So if she goes through a spell where she's not getting a lot of playing time, I tell her, don't focus on not playing, focus on getting in that gym and making sure that you're putting the work in. So when you get in the game, then you are ready to go. Focus on being positive, that even if it's just 3 minutes that you're getting at the end of the game, go in there and kill that 3 minutes. So, yeah, so that's pretty much us.
No, it's so interesting. You mentioned so many important things that a lot of parents need to think about. Now, the first thing is you realize very early on that you couldn't coach her. You didn't push it. Some people, you don't want to ruin the relationship with your child, but not everybody. No, right?
When growing up in the whole AAU high school game, you hear those coaches that are, run, you got to run, you hear all the parents that are just so overbearing. Either they're blaming the coaches or the referees or the kids, it's just, it is a lot. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I think parents should really realize, for one, it's really hard to coach your own. It's hard to coach, period. And then to coach your own child it's a special thing. It's more unusual than it is usual, I think.
Yeah.
Right. But then you also mentioned,
because we had one of the kids that played with my daughter, her name is Jada. Her father pretty much coached her, growing up all through her career. And then she ended up transferring to his high school. He got a head coaching job, and, he was able to do a great job at it. But it takes a special parent and a special kid to be able to make that happen. So
yes, I think it's more unlikely than likely. But then you also mentioned something else, which is, I think, really important, which I try to tell people, that your daughter is coachable. People want their kids to be fabulous, which is great. But if you can't tell that fabulous athlete what to do, what are you going to do?
Yep, exactly. That is it. And I think if kids would just realize, okay, easy is probably the demise of your greatness. So the coaches that let you do whatever you want to do, or they don't really get on you or hold you accountable for what you're doing or what you've done, then I think they're doing you a disservice. And you have to understand that nothing in life comes easy. If you think about it, is it easy to make millions? Is it easy to go out and buy a Bentley? Is it easy? All of the things that we deem as important or valuable or whatever, it's never easy. It's not like, Bentleys are laying up, like you can go to the car lot, the used car lot and you know what I'm saying? So I think just understanding that if I want to get to a certain level, you have to pay the cost to get there. And I always use the analogy that Michael Jordan, he started the Breakfast Club. Here he is, the greatest player in the world. And he is working hard, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and asking his teammates to come and join him so that they can continue to grow and to get better. During the Olympics, when Kobe and LeBron was playing, Carmelo Anthony says it. He said, man, they changed my life. When I looked at how hard they worked, their trainers came over with them. They were preparing for the season during the Olympics, doing all this extra stuff and preparing. And he was like, man, it just changed my whole outlook and perspective on things. Steph Curry, just a great player. He was a good player, but he decided he wanted to be a great player. And then he started putting in the work, And so if you look at his pregame warm up, his pregame regimen, I mean, it's work. He's working on ball handling. He's working on his shots. All of those 40-foot shots that he's taking, he practices those. He works on those. And so, I think, parents, when you're giving kids, these excuses where the coach should have had you in the game more, or you should have played more, you should have done this, that, and another. I think you're doing your kid a disservice. I think you should tell them, don't look for the easy way out and point the finger, because you know what they always say, when you're pointing your finger, the other three are pointing back at you, because there are always things that everyone can improve on and get better at. Okay. And so sometimes we find ourselves in situations. You might go to like all of your middle school, high school career was great. Then you go to a college, and then all of a sudden now you sit the bench and now you're trying to figure it out. Well, we need to grow as individuals first and foremost. So it might be that you were put in that situation because you need to work on your communication skills. You need to learn how to go in and sit down with the coach instead of being mad because you're not playing. Go in and say, Coach, what can I do? I want to play more. What can I do? Will you watch film with me to show me where I need to get better at? Will you work with me on my shot, or will you work with me on this new position, or whatever that is? I think that's super important, but there are so many ways that we can focus. I always say control our controllables. Those are things that you have control over. And once we learn how to do that, then the only thing that you can do when you're in a situation where you have a boss or you have a coach that is calling the shots, and it might not include you, the only thing that you can do is continue to get better, because they will need you. They are going to need you. And if not, then you have other options. But a lot of people want to jump to the other options, like transferring to a school, and things like that. This is another thing that I tell kids, the transfer portal is crazy. They created this transfer portal during the COVID years because which allowed students to be able to transfer to other schools and play immediately. Mm-hmm. And so now all of these kids, if they're not happy, and what I realize is, it's true. These kids today it's an entitled group of kids. They want everything instantaneously and want to be superstars and don't want to put any work into it. And so that transfer portal, the reality of it is guess what? If you weren't playing at the school that you're at now, don't jump out and go into that transfer portal, because guess what? You don't even have a track record. The coach can't even go and pull any film just to see. So why would a coach, if you weren't playing for the coach you're playing for now, why is another coach at a better school going to come back and pick? It's kind of like, why is a dime going to come back and pick up a nickel? And so I'm just like, stop fooling yourselves, put the work in. Asking yourselves the questions, where do I need to grow? Parents, holding your kids accountable, because guess what? That's going to follow them for the rest of their lives. They're not going to just get a promotion. They're going to have to work hard and compete for a promotion if they want in a job. Or, you got to stop saving your kids. You got to let them make their decisions and hold them and be held accountable for their decisions. If they didn't stay up and study and they fail a class or something like that, then don't get mad at the school program or whatever. It's a collective thing, because you probably weren't on them as tough as you should have been maybe in high school for them to even act like that. So we're all responsible in this when you talk about the student athletes and helping them to understand, what it is. And I tell my daughter all the time, well, okay, you did that, or you chose to not do that. So you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with that, deal with those consequences.
No, that's actually some really, really great advice. And then the other thing I will say that a lot of parents do ask me, because your daughter's doing so well academically as well, right? So it's a combination. And so I sometimes, work with different parents because they're like, oh, this person didn't do well on this test, so I'm going to take him out of practice for a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to do both. So kind of, how do you manage your child being the best student they can be and the best athlete?
Well, okay. In high school, my kid was super lazy. She's really intelligent. I mean, she was reading at 3. I never will forget. I was driving down the street, and and I had her. And if I'm in the driver's seat here, I had her like on the opposite side, so that I could look in the back seat and see her. And she's like 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. And then she turns the page, and stuff. And she's reading it, and then it just hit me. I'm like, are you reading that? And she was like, and I snatched it, but I was like, and I moved the pages forward. I said, read that right there. And I was looking, and she started reading. I was like, oh my God, she can read at 3, but she was in a private school. She was at the Trey Whitfield School in New York and everything, but she's bright. She is just a bright child. Now, her problem was the school, like what they were teaching her was really boring to her. It was just, it just didn't appeal to her. And so again, you have to know your child. You have to know, do they have any learning disabilities? Is it just the school and the system that, the curriculum that they have to teach? Is it boring? Is it the teacher? Because some teachers are just boring as all get out and they don't want to teach. Some teachers are, they make it fun and make learning fun. I was just watching something where this one teacher was teaching these little kids. They were probably 6 years old and teaching this or whatever, the sound of the letters in like a song and a rap, and she's up there doing all the dances, the latest dance. I hear you, I see you, and stuff. And, you have to be creative with those kids. So finding that out, but then really having a talk with your kid. Like if you're in high school, just to say, okay, I know you don't like this, but in life, like I don't particularly like having to go to work every day and at this job, but I have to do it in order to make sure there's a roof over our heads and stuff. Like you got to start having that grown-up conversation with your kids, or just to say, how are you going to get in college if your grades are not, so now we're going to need to focus, finding resources. Some people don't have resources to pay for tutors and stuff, but there are always resources. There are schools can help you. Is there a teacher? Can my kid meet with you after school to really lock in this? Can you help and stuff? And those are the resources. You got to dig a little bit deeper. In college, man, they have I don't know. I don't think anyone can fail in college because you have your own personal person that is assigned to you to help you. They have to turn in even the tutors or the academic advisors. They have to report to their boss, which their boss reports to the coaches and the coaching staff. And they speak with the professors and, just everything. If a paper is done, you usually will have your paper finished, 2 or 3 days prior to it being turned in. Like if you need to study for a test, they have all of that information. So you go into your study hall session and you are, they have you focused and everything. So I was just like, man, so she was telling me that. And so that's good in that sense. But I think just identifying if your kids are having any academic problems, like learning, because some kids do, because it's atrocious how kids, especially in these underserved areas, how they just pass kids on through the system, kids that can barely read. Ariel, my daughter was telling me that, like, even in college, like some of the kids, she was like, Ma, she was like, I don't even know how they got into college. Like some of these football players, coming in and things like that. And it's amazing, that the disservice that they do to these kids.
Yeah, it is a disservice. But as a parent, I think what you're saying is you just got to stay on top of it. You got to stay on top of sports. You got to say it's a lot. You have to do that one. You have to keep managing. So again, I wanted to ask you, because I think it's unusual. You said you didn't start basketball until high school.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're talking about all the AAU, but I'm sure the little 8-year-old AAU people are getting crazy. And so tell us about how you came about sport, because I think people also, so you started basketball in high school, and then there weren't really professional opportunities out there, but look at the world education that you got. I mean, that you were able to travel the world and do all of this. And I don't think people realize that there might be other options of doing well in sport.
Yeah, definitely. I just remember the first day of high school, I was 6 feet tall. And I was taller than most of the seniors, and except for like the boy basketball players, and things like that. But I was, and the basketball coach ran up to me and he was like, "Oh my God, you're going to try for the basketball team, right?" And I'm like, "No, get away from me." I was extremely shy. I knew I was a good athlete because on our block, there was a lot of kids. It was a neighborhood. It was like a brand new neighborhood. They called the area we lived in the New World, and everything, and beautiful homes. And so we were have relay races, and we playing all of this. We playing touch football, all of these games and stuff. So I knew I was a great athlete. I knew I was fast. I could run. I didn't know, I had just never played basketball. And so he asked me every single day until I finally said, yeah. And, literally that changed the trajectory of my life. And then I got into track because I did well as an athlete during my freshman year. I didn't play varsity, but, because I was just learning the game, learning how to dribble and how to shoot and understanding the game, knowing that you can't stand in 3 seconds because there's so many rules. It's a lot to learn to the game of basketball until it finally clicks. But then the track coach asked me if I would try out and throw the shot put for the track team. And so then I was like feeling good. I was feeling confident coming off the basketball season. I was like, okay, and everything. And I ended up winning the state championship that year in the shot put. My sophomore year, I won it. And then another lesson that I learned, I lost it my junior year. And it was because I had an off day. I always tell kids, when you lose focus and you feel that, I don't need to practice, an off day can hit you, and it can hit you at the worst time. And it hit me the state championship day. I couldn't even throw what I averaged. And this person threw probably a half an inch over what I averaged. So I was so mad. But, my senior year, I came back, I was focused, and, I set the state record on my last throw and everything. And so it was really cool, so, it's just a lot of lessons in life, and I tell kids when I'm talking to them, I'm like, sports and athletics are more than just a game. They teach you lessons in life that every single day you will use several of the lessons, and so I think it just makes you more mentally tough, more physically tough, and emotionally tough as well, because there's nothing like standing on a free throw line when you are down by 1 point. And you have to, make a free throw to just tie the game up, to send it into overtime. And if you make 2, then you can win the game. But if you miss both, then you lose the game. Nothing can prepare you for life better than like those types of events. So yeah.
That's true. No, that's true. As we're doing this and they go through these journeys, I was asked to do this because there are a lot of, parents, if they weren't athletes, or understand how this goes. Because I will say it's definitely tough for parents when your child doesn't do well. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you manage that part? I mean, you have to go on that ride just as well. Mm-hmm. And, how do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, again, you get out of anything what you put into it. Now, let's clear up the fact that there are people that are just naturally gifted and talented in everything that we do, everything that there's possibly to do in this world. There are people that have an amazing green thumbs. They can look at this and just know exactly what to do, or just some athletes are just naturally gifted. That is true. Okay. So I always say you got to find your greatness, find what you're good at, because everybody's good at something. It's like math. The people that are just good at math, I just look at them like, I don't even get it. But then a person can look at me like, how do you do a reverse layup? And how do you know how hard to shoot it? And how, so, if your kid isn't an athlete, it's okay, but you need to know that. So now you prepare them and you coach them from a different angle. You coach them, not that they're supposed to be scoring a lot of points and things like that. Now it's more about how you prepare them, training them, getting them to keep working on your ball handling, keep working keep working on shots and things like that, and keep working. And because, you look at it like Dennis Rodman, when I go back to the Chicago Bulls, Dennis Rodman was not known as an offensive threat when he would play for the Chicago Bulls, but he averaged 20 rebounds a game. And he always defended the toughest person on the opposite team, whoever it was. Well, maybe not the point guards and things like that, but the post players, he always took on and gladly took on, signed up for the dirty job, to do that. So I think it's knowing where you fit in and then how you can continue to get better, and being honest. Come on, parents, be honest. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with your kids and tell them, hey, if you want to get better, then you're going to have to put the work in. You can't just lay and play video games and then think you can show up at practice and show up at the games. And then all of a sudden you're going to be one of the top players on the team. That's not how it happens. Those kids that are usually good, they're eating, sleeping, and drinking the sport. They're playing every moment. They're in there, in the house, on the side of the house, dribbling, imagining, going through players and, and things like that, doing their visual work. And I mean, you hear professional players say it all the time. When I was a kid, I used to dream, we used to play here and I would act like I was going through and then dunking to win the championship. And, I mean, that's what that is, So again, you get out of whatever you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. So I think starting there, and parents, and if you don't pour into your kids, like making sure they're getting to practice or, showing up and kind of supporting them or seeing where they need work and talking to them or just being like, okay, well, let's work on ball handling. Come on, we'll go on the side of the house or go, whatever, or I'll go to the park or whatever. I'll rebound for you while you're working on certain things. Again, you have to invest in that because guess what? If your kid all of a sudden grew up, went to play college and was a great player, then went on to the pros, then you want to be right up in there when the money's coming, right? And stuff like that. So I'm just like, you have to invest too. Parents have to invest in those kids.
Yeah, it definitely takes investment, and it's worth it. It's part of growing up, but it's a joyful thing with the kids. And I know you spoke about Ariel and her, what'd you call it, her cue when she's the thought she has about when she plays the game. I think there are people that are physically talented, right? Mm-hmm. And there's that part, but you're talking about the mental and just the knowing what to do part. Mm-hmm. That also has to be worked on as well.
Oh, definitely. And that's where her work is coming in at. Just understanding, because when you're at the collegiate level, I mean, they're teaching you they're breaking down everything, teaching you how to play individual defense, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. They're teaching you how to play, the press, the zone press, the full court press. You're learning so much. You have press breakers, you have out of bounds plays under the basket, on the side, full court out of bounds plays. I mean, you have all of the offenses that you run against people and all of the defensive sets that you run against people. So you're learning so much that it can be extremely overwhelming to kids, especially if you haven't been taught all of that. And so my daughter, she hadn't been taught a lot of that stuff. And again, she hadn't been taught like the dynamics, the nuances of being a guard, like that only a guard can teach a guard. They teach you, if you go by somebody, put the ball out in front of you so that they can't just reach behind you and, tap it away as you go by them. Or, never dribble one time and pick up your dribble. Or, if you're getting trapped, for example, always head fake a pass, and the one that jumps, then that's the one that you go and you attack because they're off of their feet, and now you can get out of that. It's just so many little nuances to every position. So she's learning, like I said, right now, it can be overwhelming. And then also, not only that, every level that you move up, the playing field gets way more leveled. So you may have been a standout in your high school or in your middle school team, but now all of a sudden, when you move up to the collegiate level, everybody is a star. Everybody was good at their high school. Everybody was really, really good at their high school. So now, and everybody that you play against, every other team, everybody is good. So yeah, you may have been the fastest and the quickest, but guess what? There might be 2 or 3 other people on that team that are just as fast as you. So that's another lesson. She might make a mistake in the game. I watch her, she might make a mistake in the game. And I'm like, come on, you can't take your ball, like she got beat back door because when you're tired and everything, you take mental breaks and then you'll take physical breaks. So she'll play her girl defense and she'll be on her. But the moment her girl passes the ball, then she stands up, and she's like, and then her girl cuts back door and now she gets a layup, and so just learning those things oh, that's been an adjustment for her. And then she'll come out of the game, and then she's hanging her head, So I'm like, hey, you got to commit to being a better defender. You cannot at this level go to sleep on your player. You got to see the girl and the ball at the same time. Because if you're face masking your girl, which is another thing, then you don't know which way the ball's coming. So you have to see both. You have to be in a place where you can see the girl and you can see the ball. And, good coaches would teach you. And with your peripheral vision, when you in a position, not in line with all three of them, but one step back, you can see both when you're looking forward, so all of that, but she's going to get it. I know, there's no doubt in my mind that she won't get it. And so, but I got to let her feel it,
No, and that's, I think, the message. I mean, it's been so great. I mean, I always learn so much. I didn't know you were a shot putter and you were a champion shot putter. And I've known you for a minute. So, but no, it's just great to hear because, I'm following along and I see, she was at, I think, my son's birthday party when they were like 4 or something like that. And to see how successful she's been. And it's just been such a joy for one to talk to you, which is always the best. And you always support all the stuff we do, but also to see how well she's doing. And it's what you can give people. You just give us the knowledge, all the other things to think about, where it can really take you. You know what I'm saying? And it's so worth it. It's so worth it for other people to hear that sometimes it's not always perfect, but you got to be waiting.
Ooh. Yeah, and then too, understand, like student athletes, parents know that going through slumps, you're not going to always play good. It's impossible. You're not going to always play good. So that mental aspect, look at Clay. I mean, last year, he started out, everyone was questioning, oh, he's never going to be the player that he was. And, just they were dogging him, but he was able to stay in it mentally. And, he even did a commercial, how, I think it was like, everybody's counting me out. Everyone's, and it was just one of those heartfelt commercials, like that Nike does when they're telling a story, but it's about continuing to, push through the grind, continuing to stay tough and strong mentally and physically and just continue to put the work in. And so he ended up being a big part of them winning that championship. And so you're going to have to work through that as well. You're going to have to, and sometimes ourselves are our biggest enemies, just overcoming, learning how to overcome and deal with that. And that's when you need to reach out as well. And that's why it's important to establish relationships with your coaches. And when you get to the collegiate level, they probably have like a sports psychologist on staff or something like that. But you got to know to get out of your own head and go. Like I was suggesting it for my daughter, and everything, just because my child, her thing too, is when she comes into a situation like she came into college, she doesn't have that, I'm going to take over, I'm going to dominate, and things like that, because a lot of girls, they want to be liked. So they know that a lot of times if you're the best, or if you're the most beautiful, or if you don't, you get pushback and feedback from a lot of people. You get haters. I mean, and it's not just girls, it's not women. A lot of people get haters, but girls want to be liked. And so I always tell her, it's not that you're going over and you're trying to take over and stuff. I just said, play to your best ability. And let the chips fall where they may. I'm not saying go in there and attack. I want your position. I'm none of that. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying show up every day, defend everybody that you have to defend to the best of your ability. Because guess what? Then you're preparing them. So when y'all go and play against another team, they're going to be defending them to stop them. But when you guys are like, oh, okay, go ahead, drive. Oh, okay. You can shoot the shot, then you get in the game, and then you lose by 40. Then you want to know why, because you guys aren't used to playing defense. Now you get in the game, and the defense is on you. Now you got to shoot the shot quicker. You got to drive to the basket quicker. You take a bump. You don't know what that's like. So it's a lot, but you got to be able to have somebody to say, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm looking at you, and right now you're going through a little doubt in your play. And so, I want you to talk to somebody. I want you to talk to the coaches, or get in the gym every day with the coaches and keep shooting that shot. You keep shooting that shot. I'm going to start bumping you. You keep shooting the shot when you drive into the basket, telling the coaches, teaching you, make sure you place the ball right in the square, whatever it is, because guess what? When you do that, it's a lot easier to pull yourself out of the hole than it is than to be in your own head and just doubting and being afraid to take that shot when it comes.
No, that's great. And on that point, that is a perfect ending, because you got to be, like you said, you got to be in it. And the mental part is really important. And you've given us some really great gems about just managing it. It is a process, but you've done it so well. We're very excited. No, really, it's exciting to see it. I learn a lot, but also I think people out there really learn a lot. Just to come from such an accomplished athlete and how you manage that with your own child, but also you have a sense across the board, which is really helpful, and it's really helpful for parents to hear. So thank you for joining us through everything, Kym. It's fabulous. Miss you. And we didn't talk about your fabulous singing voice, but that's a whole nother, right?
Yeah, that's another one.
One. But yeah, it's been great. Oh, thank you, Kym. It looks great. I wish you the best out west.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I wish you the best as well. You and the family, the school. I love when you share how wonderful the girls are doing with their gymnastics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Thank you.